Hi, I'm Jennifer Jackson, and today we're going to be doing some more work on the Collections Merit Badge. All right, hope you're having fun so far. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint, so give me just a second. Okay, let's see. Today we're going to talk about what is going on in the future and what your plans are for your Merit Badge going forward. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different things so far, and now okay, we're going to talk about, hopefully you can see this, talk about what are your plans for the future. So the sample we gave before about the scout who collected crazy bones to play with, he paid $50 for them, and he realized, look, I'm going to play with my crazy bones. I'm going to take them out of the box. I'm going to trade them, with my friends, put them back in the box, and they're going to get damaged. And you know what? I'd like to maybe sell them for the same amount that I bought them for down the road. That's his plan. Okay? That's a perfectly good plan because it's a collection that he is not looking to have any sort of cash value. He wants to have enjoyment with his collection. And he realized that it's not really worth anything more than sentimental value. There's another thing you might want to do. We looked at different ways to display your collection. Some people would like to have a collection and turn it into a little bit of art. And you can do that easily with shelves, hanging them on the wall. Someone recommended earlier that getting affordable shelving and options and lighting at IKEA is a great way to professionally display your collection. And the hardest thing about doing something like this is not going overboard. It's too easy to, instead of in this sample with the G.I. Joe collection, having just 2 to 4 pieces per shelf, it's too easy to grab another one and add it to the shelf. And then before you know it, it's cluttered. So try and keep it neat and orderly. And that is a great way to maintain your collection. This is something that I think is interesting. It says, discuss with your counselor why and how collecting has changed and how it applies to your collection. So the internet has changed collecting incredibly because before you had to get magazines or catalogs, wait for them to get printed, wait for them to come in the mail, and then you had to send away or call and send money. And it took a really long time. And someone else might get it before you got the item you were looking for. Or you had to travel and go to trade shows. And that takes a long time to do. But eBay was invented, and the urban legend, I don't think it's fact, but it sounds good. The story is that it was founded to help Pierre Omidyar's fiancée trade Pez candy dispensers. And I don't think that's a true story, but it sure sounds like a great way, right? Oh my gosh, I created this great company. And if you live locally here in Connecticut, you can go to Orange, Connecticut, and you can go to the Pez factory. They have an amazing collection. Obviously, they're Pez, but it's a lot of fun. Anyway, you can go on eBay and you can track down anything you want. Additionally, there are so many wonderful websites that you can check out, and that has just made it so much easier. You can also learn more about your collection and become more educated. You don't have to wait for publications. It's all at the touch of the fingertip. This is an interesting twist I wouldn't have expected. So I was speaking to a collector who has a collections business, and he was telling me that the younger generation, the millennials, they don't want stuff. There's been a movement in these past 5-10 years to declutter our lives of stuff. We have too much stuff. We own too much stuff. And in fact, in recent years, there's been a movement called Marie Kondo developed this method called the KonMari method for ridding yourself of things that don't spark joy in your life. So you pick up anything and you're like, does this really bring me joy? Goodbye. And you set it free. And that way you have less stuff. It's kind of a minimalist movement, but that idea means that young people are like, yeah, I don't want a bunch of stuff. It's just clutter. So the people who are in the trade collection business have noticed that, well, not as many people want to buy or collect anymore. So that might change how you want to do things. It might make you say, you know what, instead of getting world domination in my category, my collection, I just want to find a few things that spark joy. So going back to that G.I. Joe collection, there weren't thousands of pieces of G.I. Joe. There weren't even hundreds of pieces. There were, maybe 20, 25 pieces that were smartly displayed on a shelf. And maybe that means you pick things that are just sentimental. Maybe it's the G.I. Joe you had when you were a child. It brings back a good memory, or it's a really good quality one, or something just about it made you happy. That might be one way that you change how you collect things. All right, the next thing we need to do is we need to talk about careers that you can have in collections. There are a lot of types of careers you could have. These are just some of them. You might have a magazine. You might be a magazine publisher. Like we mentioned, those catalogs, people still use the catalogs. They're going to forecast upcoming events. Maybe you're in the trade show business. Maybe like a catalog, you have a trade publication, PSA, the business cards. Maybe like PSA, you have the business of actually grading that collectible item. And PSA we talked about earlier with the baseball cards. Maybe you have an eBay shop. Maybe you're a buyer or a seller. Maybe you're a business owner. Maybe you create the baseball cards. Maybe you're Topps, right? Maybe you own a thrift store. Maybe you are a person who goes to tag sales, estate sales, thrift stores, Goodwill, and you buy things and you resell them. Maybe you have a store. Maybe you have a comic book store. Maybe you're a blogger, an auctioneer. Maybe you own an auction house, or you have a museum, or you're a curator of a museum, a salesperson, a photographer. The list could go on and on. Oh, maybe you're an interior designer, because we talked about using your collection as an art form. So there are a lot of different things. Those are just things that I thought of. I'm certain there are so many more that you could have. I'm going to share this link in our class, but here is an article about step-by-step guides to become an auctioneer. Because if you go to an auction, there's an art to it. You don't just say, who would like to buy this stapler? Can someone give me $1 for it? Anyone want to give me $1.50? No, there's a very specific skill to that, and you need to learn that if you want to be an auctioneer. Interesting thing to learn about. What kind of school would you need? Education. Well, direct courses is that would be helpful for you would be business, accounting, maybe art, maybe computers, English. You want to spell and type correctly, graphic arts, technology. There are so many more, but those are just some that I could think of. Indirect courses. You might want to know about music, technology, sports, other clubs, driver's ed. You might need to go drive someplace. You might want to be a web designer. They don't seem like they're directly related to the collections, but there are extra things that life skills that you just might need. If you want to be, if you want to collect wine, then you probably should have adult experience in wine. If you want to collect stamps, you might need to know history to understand some of the historic significance with some of those things. If you're an art collector, you'd obviously want to know about art. Post-high school degrees for collectors, you might need a certification in something, or an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, online communications degree, or continuing education. Perhaps you have a trade that you want to learn about, and there's a collection that relates to your field. I went to a restaurant and I thought it was really interesting. The art on the wall, they were all old water meters. Like, what an unusual thing to have, but it was really cool. So maybe if you worked in that business, on the side, you'd also want to collect water meters. Who knows? The possibilities are endless. So how much does college cost? College is getting so expensive. This is really old. This image is almost 10 years old. So you'd want to see what it is today. And total expenses from the College Board for 2011 and 12 it said it was easily $42,000 a year for private education. Public 4-year, 21. And I know it's already more than that because I think in the state of Connecticut, I think in-state tuition for for UConn, University of Connecticut, is almost 30,000. So it just keeps going up and up. This is interesting. This is also a slightly older figure, but this is, you want to know what the salary is for whatever career you're thinking of. So let's say, back to that article we talked about, maybe you want to be an auctioneer. Well, average salaries for auctioneers, and they range from just under 40,000 to, for some reason in Illinois, over 60,000. I'm not sure why that's an outlier, but it looks like it's about 35 to 40,000 as a salary for an auctioneer. And these are a little dated, so it could be more by now. All right, that's it. That's all I have for the lesson. We're going to have your presentation in our next live Zoom class, and I can hardly wait to see you tell me everything you've learned about your collection. Okay, take care. Make it a good one, everybody.